Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Xbox Casuals, the Xbox podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Corey Deering, and alongside me, as always, is the Cyberpunk himself, Josh Finney.
Whew, Corey.
Hi, Josh.
Hi, Corey. It's been one of those weeks already. It's Monday.
It's only Monday.
It's been very busy the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Oh man, but man, yeah, it's definitely been a interesting few weeks to be sure.
To be sure.
But anyways, how's everything else going besides the usual?
Oh man, it's just been busy. You know, we're getting into the fall season, so things have been a little hectic. I went out of town for a weekend to go visit friends. Been blowing through Cyberpunk, which I'll have something to say on in a little bit. Kind of getting things sorted out, I guess. Now that we're in fall, we're a little over a month out from Thanksgiving, so you know, trying to iron out some holiday plans.
Nice.
Because once November hits, it just takes off. So
Yeah, it's we're trying to figure out all that stuff too, and my birthday's the day after Thanksgiving, so there's all that garbage too.
Yeah, no kidding.
But
did you see the wild sale that was going on at GameStop and on Amazon the last couple days?
I did not.
Tons of physical games were marked down like 75%, including the complete deluxe, whatever you want to call it, version of Midnight Suns was like $20.
Interesting.
For the game with the season pass. They have another version that's $7.50. That's basically the game without the season pass, and I think I'm gonna try and snag that. A local GameStop by me still has a copy of it. But these are brand new games. Tales of Arise was $5.
Nice.
There were a few Switch games. I think Fire Emblem Three Hopes was like $14. Which, I mean, if you know anything about Nintendo games, that's like, go snatch it because you'll never see it that cheap ever again. Pokemon Shield was $8.
$8.
$8. Diamond and Pearl were like $20.
Interesting.
Yeah, there were some wild ones. It all like went live like 1:00 in the morning. Sunday or Saturday going into Sunday is when it happened. So of course, by the time I got to the store today, a lot of stuff was gone.
Nice. I did see a couple sales. I thought about getting Plague Tale Requiem because that was $12, I think. Because I'm almost done with the first one. Finally.
Yeah, I like those games. It's just, man, I have to play them in extremely small doses. I'm not good at stealth gameplay is my problem.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm quickly learning in certain games is bad.
Yeah. What's the one stealth? Doesn't Phantom Liberty have a bunch of stealth sections or something?
Yeah. So I mean, I guess we should just move into what we've been playing.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to take the microphone to talk about Phantom Liberty and Cyberpunk 2.0 for a little bit.
Yeah. Do it.
It is no secret I loved 2077 when it came out in 2020. I was extremely fortunate to have a Series X and be able to actually enjoy the game.
Mm-hmm.
I understand why it got the very bad initial reviews, though. And the game now is completely different. I've said several times over the last couple of weeks, if 2.0/Phantom Liberty came out this year as a complete package, as a brand new game, it would be my game of the year right now. And I say that with the asterisk next to it that I have not played Baldur's Gate 3 yet. Hoping that that's November and December's game, but that depends on getting a Steam Deck. It immediately feels more like an RPG than a third-person shooter. 2.0 resets all the skill trees, and you have to reallocate things. You have to actually make a build. You can't just like hodgepodge throw things in. Like, it treats it like it's an actual RPG, but an RPG with a build.
Yeah.
The side missions and the gigs that are introduced here are significantly like eons better than they were with the ones that are in there at launch. You can tell what was there at launch and what came after,
Hmm.
basically.
Yeah.
Especially like the gigs that you undertake in Dogtown are so radically different than what you undertake elsewhere in the game.
Hmm.
Each of these gigs is basically a small storyline, which they're supposed to be, but they're long. Like some of
Yeah.
them are actually pretty long missions. But getting into kind of the meat and the potatoes of it, Dogtown itself isn't a super fascinating area to me. It's actually quite annoying to traverse. But the stories that you undertake in there and the level design for the actual main missions is pretty pretty great. I think Idris Elba was a really great choice to put alongside Keanu Reeves, kind of as your guide through this one. And he's an actual character. He's not a construct, figment of your imagination. But it, and I mean, obviously they got Keanu back to do some new dialogue, but there's large sections of the story that you play in this without some minor spoilers here. I'm not going to spoil the entire ending of the game, but some minor spoilers. Um, right as you start the expansion, all of a sudden Keanu's not there.
Yeah.
He doesn't show up for a little while. And I imagine that was part of that's probably due to availability, but they work it into the story in a way that makes a lot of sense.
Mm.
Um, it is cool seeing Johnny, and like you get some of Johnny's most vulnerable moments, I think, across both the base game and the expansion towards the end of it. The story is pretty interesting. You know, you obviously from the get go you're trying to rescue the president of the United States. And it just kind of spirals from there. Like that's not even the craziest thing that you do in this expansion.
Hmm.
And like that's the first mission. That's the first mission.
Jeez.
It's you infiltrating Dogtown, and then basically Air Force One crashes, and that's when the title comes. That's when the title comes up on the screen, and the mission literally like you're being yelled at by the person you're talking to on the holo, like get to the crash site, and it just it gets crazy from there. Like you 1 minute you're in this massive gunfight, going fuck it, we ball, and then the next minute you're having to be stealthy, and you have to be stealthy or you get a game over. Um, I like the dichotomy between the two. There is quite an emphasis on stealth in this expansion, which was kind of shocking. But they take it from being you're like you're not like a gangster, but you're this, you're I don't know, this mercenary to yeah, you're gonna have to be stealthy, and if you haven't built in the stealth, you're gonna have a really rough time.
Hmm.
Um, what blows my mind is you can pretty much shoot your way through everything. Just like the characters will be like, "Well, I really wish you hadn't done that." It'll lead to like different dialogue choices. You do that all the way up until about 80% of the way through. You are faced with a choice similar to the base game where it kind of determines what ending you're going to get well, not kind of, it does determine what ending you'll get for the DLC, like side with this person or this person. I did the way that I felt that my character would do it. I got really into the role playing aspect of Phantom Liberty. And when you do that, you are greeted with two awesome missions back to back, and then you get the final mission, which is still really cool, but has just one of the most punishing stealth sections I've ever encountered in a game. Like there's not a lot of checkpoints. It was punishing to the point where I was hitting a roadblock so badly on how to get through this section that I ended up speed running the DLC on a on my original character from 2020. Booted that up instead of doing a brand new save like I had been doing up to this point. Booted up my old character, allocated all my skill points, blew through the DLC just to take the other path
Mm. Nice.
because I did not have a save from before that. Cyberpunk reminding me again, you need to save as often as you can because of choices like this. Was not a fan of how that one played out at all, but it did get me far enough to be able to unlock the ending. You get a new game ending if certain criteria is met throughout the DLC. You get a new ending to the main game. Where and therein lies my problem: the final mission of each path and the actual ending to 2077 you can get out of this. The ending you get out of it, I feel, is a complete betrayal of everything that CD Projekt Red had built up to across 2077 and Phantom Liberty. It's a complete betrayal of V's character, in my opinion. Um, and yet, at the same time, there's something that's like hauntingly accurate about the ending. It reminds you that there are no happy endings. Every ending in Cyberpunk, and I mean, if you've been around the game at all in the last 3 years, the endings have been debated, and they're all literally every ending except for maybe one is depressing. And that one is depressing because it's left open ended as to what is going to happen to V.
Is that the one where you ride off with Pan Am?
Yep.
Yeah.
That is, in my opinion, that is the only good ending in the game. I think this one isn't the worst. The worst one, hands down, is in the base game. You have the option to give Johnny Silverhand your body. Oh, excuse me. Committing suicide on the roof is pretty bad too.
Oh yeah, that would.
Both of those endings are really bad. Siding with Arasaka is terrible. This new ending can only be achieved if certain characters make it all the way through the DLC. And it is, you would be shocked at how easy it is to fuck that up. It's, you got the two main characters have to make it through essentially. You have to get Idris Elba's Solomon and Songbird. The two of them have to make it through to the end.
Yeah.
Either way.
In one of the trailers, they actually spoil one of the endings you can get. So if you want to stay away from this game, don't watch the trailer.
Yeah. I actually did not remember anything from the marketing when I went and booted this up, other than I knew that the president was in it. The president and Idris Elba were in it. That's all I knew.
Yeah.
It is, despite my qualms with the ending, this is probably still one of the best DLCs I've ever played. CD Projekt Red again raises the bar for what we should expect in an expansion. I think I want to say it was Ethan Gatch over at Kotaku was making the argument that Phantom Liberty could very well be his game of the year. People are like, "Oh, it's a DLC." He goes, "Yeah, well, Blood and Wine was my game of the year when it came out." So, but this goes up into the annals alongside that, Far Harbor, Shivering Isles. Think of some of the great RPG expansions that we've ever gotten, and it's up there. Yeah. It's cool. I won't say it seamlessly fits in with the story of 2077. It's actually quite jarring, mainly because the levels and the story is designed so much better than the base game was.
Yeah.
But if this is a peek at what they're going to do with a second game, I can't wait. Even though I'm going to be waiting 5-6 years for it at least.
Oh yeah.
That's probably a next generation game at this point.
Yeah. I mean, the cool thing though is that the Phantom Liberty team is leading up the sequel, right? Because
yes,
the Poland teams are doing the Witcher stuff.
So yeah, they put out some stuff last week, some PR statements, and I've got a little bit of that. I had it bookmarked, but naturally. Yeah, I'm going through to see. We're supposed to. So they bragged about 25 million copies have been sold of the game, and 3 million copies of the expansion. So that's no small cookie. That's a hugely successful game.
Especially 3 years after the game originally comes out, right? You put an expansion out and it does really well.
Yeah. Okay, so it's not here like I thought it was going to be. Okay, well, I'll just have to do it from memory. They broke down in a presentation about what studios are doing what. They are actually really going to staff up North America. They have a studio in Vancouver, and that's who handled Phantom Liberty for the most part. Or co-developed it with Poland, really. They're going to open a studio in Boston and grow it not from scratch, but I think they have a small studio there that they own. Molasses Flood, I think, is there.
Yeah.
And they're going to grow CD Projekt Red North America out of Boston. And them and Vancouver together are going to develop Project Orion, as it's been codenamed. They announced it last year.
Yeah.
But they said
roadmap thing that they put out.
They said now that Phantom Liberty is out, everybody who worked on Phantom Liberty, which is estimated to be like 350 people,
Mm-hmm.
are all shifting over to work on the sequel to Cyberpunk, as well as they're going to hire more roles for it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's cool. We know that 3 Witcher games are currently in development, which is, of course, they're remaking the original Witcher in Unreal 5. What is being tentatively called Witcher 4. It's the first of a new trilogy, is being made by the Poland team. That's suspected to be not deep in development, but like they've been working on it for a while.
Right.
And then the one of the North America teams, I believe, is working on one of the other studios there, called Molasses Flood, I think is who's doing it. It's doing a multiplayer game set in the Witcher universe. So lots of Witcher coming your way over the rest of the generation. I suspect all 3 of those come out in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
With Cyberpunk 2 probably following in the first year or 2 of the next gen.
Yeah.
They announced that they're working on a live action Cyberpunk project also, with the studio that did the VFX for The Bear and the Revenant. So at the very least, it should look really pretty. I would really like for them to announce. I think they said that like they have a deal with Studio Trigger that if they come up with another idea for like Cyberpunk or Witcher or whatever, that they'll do another anime project, which would be awesome. I'd love to see a second season of Edge Runners following a different crew.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of love letters to Edge Runners in this game too, which is pretty special. You can find memorials for the team scattered throughout. There's a drink at the Afterlife named after David. You can get his Trauma Team jacket. Of course, there's icons for him, Lucy and Rebecca on the skill trees. The famous Sandevistan implant from the show is readily available here as a cyberware mod. There's a lot of really cool things, and I'm glad that they spent so much time fixing this game. I won't make the argument that 2.0 is how the game should have been at release. I think that's an unrealistic expectation. It is a lot closer to what was promised to us, though. Especially things like the police behavior. That is something that should have been in there from the get-go.
Yeah. That was
and
pretty
like,
bad when I played it.
Oh, it was not even noticeable. Now they can fucking kill you so easily. And God forbid you get max tack on your ass. You will die. You will die.
You will die.
It's cool. The weapons actually mean something. Modding them actually means something. This is what I wanted out of the game. I would argue how it was in the state before the 2.0 update is probably how it should have been at launch. I don't know how many games, like you said, 3 years later and you're releasing the 2.0 version of a single player game and putting out a DLC. And there's still some controversy around the DLC because, of course, it is current gen only. So people are trying to figure out who owes the people who bought the special Xbox One Cyberpunk version. Who owes them the refund on the DLC for buying the console bundle, because the console bundle was advertised to come with the DLCs, and then they brought it down to 1 DLC and then no DLCs for last gen.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, the Xbox One could not run this.
It barely ran.
This is probably the best current gen experience out there. This is what I believe that these consoles could do. So I encourage everybody, go play Cyberpunk, go play Phantom Liberty. It's a fucking phenomenal game. It bums me out knowing that we're not going to get any more DLC. That this is it. This is the final 2.0 is the final update, as they've said. Other than like fixing bugs, this is it. No end of life. No more features. It's feature complete, and that's largely so they can move everybody off for Orion. But yeah, I honestly, if we're sitting here today, in terms of a game that actually released this year, right now it's still Starfield for me. In terms of everything that I played this year, it's got to be Cyberpunk. I cannot give it any higher. Like, my opinion of the ending of the DLC should not impact anybody's enjoyment of it. The final missions themselves are designed so well. I just don't like the resolution of any of it. I don't like the resolution of any of it, and I don't like the absurd difficulty spike in one of the paths. But other than that, just some absolutely incredible game design.
And you said this fits in kind of like in the middle of the story.
Yeah, so it's designed for anybody who's played Cyberpunk all the way through. It is designed to be accessed after you go to Pacifica and do the main quest there.
Hmm.
After you finish dealing with the Voodoo Boys and you find out the truth about Alt, that is when you get contacted by Songbird for the first time.
Hmm.
So, it slots in kind of like middle of Act 2. And it's fairly beefy. There's probably 8 or 9 main missions here, and I would say they're all constructed pretty well. Most of them take place entirely in Dogtown too.
Oh, okay.
10 new gigs. Some of them are hilarious. One of them you have to help these inept cops. You're asked by one of their fiancés to go get them because she thinks they've been taken hostage, and in reality they were trying to sell drugs to a gang, but some junkie that they were arresting at the time took the bag of drugs and swallowed it.
Oh, jeez.
So you've had to fight your way in there to get them. Then you have to fight your way out to get them out, and it's to get them to their squad car. And it's the absolute dumbest thing, but it's hilarious. That's the dialogue. V is so sassy this time around. I absolutely love it. It's a great expansion. The gigs are fun. They're unique. If you do have to leave Dogtown, it's basically just to go to Pacifica. It's a time. It's a time, and I think everybody should enjoy it. If you like kind of like neo-noir, futuristic type stuff, this is going to be up your alley.
Nice. Great. Well, before we get into some of the news, I mean, I just finished Alan Wake Remastered and the special episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, I think I talked a little bit about it last time, but I don't know, man. I'm not into it. I'm not into Alan Wake.
I'm disappointed.
It's okay. You're not the first person to tell me that. So yeah, I don't know, man. I'm just not into like the Twin Peaks style storytelling, and like the combat wasn't very good, and I don't know, man. I just felt like I was going from light to light, trying to get to the checkpoint so I could just advance. So
that hurts my heart to hear.
I know. It's okay. You'll feel better in 10 minutes when you forget all about it.
I probably will forget all about this in 10 minutes, frankly.
I've also reached the halfway point in Plague Tale Innocence.
Okay.
I'm in the castle, like that castle that you find like halfway through the game, and kind of exploring that and getting ready to leave it. I think it's like chapter 8 or 9 or something like that. And then, Josh, you'll be happy to hear that I've also been playing Spider-Man Remastered.
Oh my god, I'm so excited for Spider-Man 2 next Friday.
I know. I can't.
By the time we reconvene, I will be playing Spider-Man 2. I'm so excited.
I forgot that it was that close. Or it's just time is flying by, and
time is flying by. Yeah,
I don't know what day it is.
Man, that Super Mario Brothers Wonder and Sonic Superstars all come out like in a 2 or 3 day span.
Yeah.
Which is disgusting. And TwitchCon happens that weekend. So
yep.
I am man, I'm so excited for Spider-Man. You're playing that. Our friend Joasis is playing Miles Morales for the first time right now.
Yeah, I'm trying to play Spider-Man Remastered and Miles Morales before I start Spider-Man 2.
Luckily, Miles, you can get through the campaign in like 8 to 10 hours.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
It's not a super long game. I mean, Spider-Man itself isn't that long if you're not getting distracted with the side quests.
Yeah, I mean, my percentage completed, it says 21%, and I've only played for about 3 hours. So I don't know how that calculates into like Act 2 and Act 3, but
I don't know. I like 100%ed it. So
yeah.
I spent probably like a week and a half with Spider-Man Remastered.
Yeah, it's I mean, the platinum's pretty easy if you're going to try to go for that. So So, and then I've never played the DLC for that either. So I heard the DLC wasn't as good. But anyways, that's what I've been playing. Josh, we're gonna get into the news. But before we get into the first story, did you see I just saw it, the Ubisoft arrests?
No, I don't have my social media pulled up.
I didn't see it on social media. I saw it on GameInformer.com. Here, I'm gonna post it in the chat here.
Yeah, send it to me. I wanna know what's going on here.
French police arrest 5 former Ubisoft executives after sexual assault harassment investigation.
Holy shit! Like
Yeah.
that just happened like now?
No, it happened within the last couple days, but
Oh,
hardly
okay.
ever.
I did hear briefly about this. I did
Yeah.
hear briefly about this. Yeah.
Yeah. So just to give everybody a little what do you call it? Summary of this. French police have arrested 5 former Ubisoft executives after a years-long investigation that began in 2021 following complaints and allegations of sexual assault and harassment within the company, as reported by GameIndustry.biz. Among the 5 arrested of Ubisoft's former chief creative officer, Sergei Haskowit, I don't know, and former vice president of editorial and creative services, Tommy Francois. The publication learned of these arrests after French newspaper The Libertarian or the Liber I don't know Liberation reported that 3 former Ubisoft executives were arrested yesterday and 2 more arrested today. And this article was written on the 4th, so last week sometime.
Yeah, I'm reading the gamesindustry.biz article right now.
Yeah. So Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot announced that he was leading the company's charge for investigations,
Oh
later
my god.
publicly publishing results of a recent internal employee survey. The survey revealed that more than 25% of employees at the company witnessed and experienced firsthand misconduct. 25%, man. Ubisoft's a big company.
Yeah, Ubisoft when the gaming Me Too movement started happening in 2020 and into 2021, Ubisoft was one of the big ones that had a lot of people come forward. And I think like seeing the investigations into it and announcing the investigations and whatnot is what really led to a lot of the Activision Blizzard news coming out throughout 2021 as well.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we all remember vividly what happened at Blizzard, and is a huge reason why Microsoft decided to go and purchase Blizzard because Bobby Kotick did fuck all. Um, but I'm reading I'm reading GamesIndustry.biz article here from the editor in chief of the site, and their piece that went up on October the 4th says, speaking to Liberation, the plaintiff's lawyer Maud Becker said the case goes beyond individual behavior and reveals systemic sexual violence.
Mm-hmm. I was reading that just now too.
Jesus fucking Christ, man!
Systematic sexual violence. What does that
That
even?
is
How do you? I don't like that.
nope.
Ubisoft has no knowledge of quote in GameIndustry.biz says, quote, Ubisoft has no knowledge of what has been shared and therefore can't comment.
Yeah, okay. Yves, whenever Yves says that he's leading the charge for something, I just know that it's immediately like full of shit.
Yeah.
God, I fucking Yves, man.
Yeah.
There was a lot of speculation in 2020 if Yves was going to be forced to step down if they were going to sell the company because I think it was one of his kids was like causing problems there too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There was a lot of allegations of nepotism and things like that because Yves really wants to keep the company in the family.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
we were speculating if they were going to get bought out.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of speculation that they would sell, or at least like, someone like Tencent or something would come in and buy like a majority share, and Yves would leave the company.
Well, some private equity firm has bought a majority share, I believe.
Yeah.
But they've let Yves stay in charge.
Yeah. So this is, I don't know, man. I feel like we always have to start one of these shows with one of these things. I mean, we talked about Bungie last week. They're on Tower Casuals, and it's just like, man, this is... I'm tired of talking about this shit, man.
I'm tired of talking about this shit too, but unfortunately, we have to talk about it, because if you don't talk about it, then it just gets swept under the rug.
Yeah.
And that's not what we're trying to do here. But yeah, looking at the stories we have to cover tonight, a lot of it is workplace disputes, firings, etc. And it's real depressing when that's the news that we have to talk about, instead of like the awesome shit that's coming out. It was I think The Gamer published an article a couple months ago that was like, this is an amazing year for games, but it's also like the worst year for games, because we get all these incredible games we should be talking about. We should be lauding the accomplishments of Larian and CD Projekt Red and Bethesda, and Nintendo and Blizzard and everything else. Instead, we have seen over 6,000 people lose their jobs in the industry this year.
Yeah.
We've seen a number of lawsuits because of workplace misconduct, sexual assault, sexual intimidation, etc., come out of this industry. And like, at some point, enough has to be enough. Like, something has to change. Something has to happen. And I think we all thought, oh, things are going to change, post 2020. No.
I feel like they're getting worse.
Yeah, I mean, people are getting greedier and just want their pockets lined. A lot of companies hedge their bets on, NFTs and Web3 and things like that. And that's, blockchain and all that's flopped.
Yeah.
That's all failed. I mean, we talked about Epic last time. And how Tim Sweeney, makes $10 billion, is worth over $10 billion, but has to lay off 900 people because he doesn't know how to run his company.
Yeah, he put out a new statement recently too about all
and
that.
I don't fucking care about that guy. Like, it's just it's so blatantly PR speak. Like, this is a guy who pretended that he was going to bat for his workers for years, and that was just a mask. So you good on French police, man, because let me tell you something. I don't think this would be happening in the States.
No, they would spend some money just to get a slap on their wrist or something.
Like, the only reason that we still have the Activision Blizzard shit going to court is because the state of California wouldn't back down.
Yeah.
So
this is rough, man.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unfucking believable.
Speaking of Activision Blizzard, Josh, supposedly by this Friday, the deal will have supposedly closed. Which I'm kind of tired of talking about all this, but it's finally happening. It's finally closing. Activision Blizzard did comment on, you sent me this in our Discord chat, that they were talking about when Call of Duty and Blizzard games would be coming to Game Pass. Obviously not day one. That article you sent me said not even after the new year, or it would be after the new year, probably closer to summer.
Yeah, so I definitely share your sentiment. I'm ready to be done talking about this acquisition. Unfortunately, because we do an every other week show, there's always news that's come up.
Yeah,
and we spun this up right as everything came to a head.
Yeah.
Hopefully, the next time that we meet, this is the last time we'll have to talk about it for a while, like one, maybe two more episodes, and then we're done.
Yeah.
It depends on how quickly Microsoft puts out like the welcome to Xbox bullshit, like they did with Bethesda.
We'll get a cool roundtable discussion.
It better lead off with the reason why Bobby Kotick's not here is because he's been let go.
He's gone.
I genuinely suspect that Phil Spencer is flying to Irvine, California, personally to fire that guy. He is going to personally show up at their offices and be like, "You are gone. Goodbye."
Wouldn't it be funny?
Here's your $500 million golden parachute. Get out of here,
Josh. That's only $430 million. Come on.
Sorry. I'm just so unbelievably tired of talking about this. I did find it interesting that Activision made a statement today on socials about this, basically saying, "Oh yeah, well, there's been a lot of speculation about Game Pass, and like, guys, the deal hasn't closed yet. Why are we talking about this? Like, legally, we're not supposed to be talking about any of this."
Yeah.
This should come as a surprise to no one. We speculated this on this very show that Diablo 4 likely would not come to Game Pass this year. Because they want those sales. Diablo 4 and Call of Duty are going to be huge sellers during the holiday months.
Yeah. I mean,
and also with Diablo comes to Steam on the 17th.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which is funny because that was 4 days after it closes. You have to wonder if like there was like a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Hey, start putting your shit on Steam now.
Yeah. You think they're going to shut down Battle.net?
No, not for a few years at least. If anything, BattleNet is what they should be using to beef up the Windows Store,
Yeah.
because the Windows Store sucks. I don't know
Oh,
if
I
you
know.
know this.
Oh, I know. I don't ever use it. I mean,
It's
the
terrible.
Xbox tab on Windows sucks too.
Yep.
So, um, but yeah, well, that would be interesting if they shifted away from the Windows Store and made BattleNet their client going forward for just Xbox and all these other games. You know, Bethesda
Yeah.
and Blizzard.
I Yeah, so this shouldn't be. I do think this gives us a little bit of a clue as to the deal with Sony, though,
Yeah.
by saying that they will come in 2024.
Mm-hmm.
To me, confirms they probably renegotiated that deal. That
Mm-hmm.
this is part of the result of a renegotiated deal. Like, yeah, we're going to let you have the marketing on this, but we're putting it on Game Pass next year.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. I think Diablo is their Q1.
Mm-hmm.
I like beginning of March at the latest. Diablo's coming to Game Pass.
I bet they put it on Game Pass at the start of a new season. That would make
Probably
sense.
the start of season 3 would probably be when they would do it.
Yeah.
But also, like, if there's a month where Xbox doesn't have anything
Mm-hmm.
next year, in like Q1 or Q2, that's when they'll drop it. Call of Duty, I fully expect Modern Warfare 3 to be during the Day of the Summer showcase. Oh, by the way, Modern Warfare 3 is on Game Pass today.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. I know probably the older Call of Duties will come earlier, but like,
Yeah.
maybe they're like the Modern Warfare trilogy is now on Game Pass.
So Jez Corden said he put out an article just after. Shout out Jez, by the way.
Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about him later in the show.
We are going to talk about him later in the show. He put out a piece an hour after this, maybe. I haven't had a chance to read it, but his headline was basically like, yeah, despite what they said on Twitter, we've confirmed with sources at Activision that the second the deal goes through, there is a smorgasbord of games ready to go. Mm-hmm. They're ready to be on Game Pass. Some people have already gotten messages, like if they try to buy Black Ops, like, hey, this is included in your Game Pass sub.
Yeah.
And that was a couple weeks ago. So
yeah,
we've thought a few times over the last like month and a half this is going to close, and there's nothing holding it up. By Friday morning, we should be sitting here saying, "Yep, there we go. It's done. It's over with." Man, I don't know if there's anything bigger you can have going into this holiday season now. Like I think we all knew that they didn't really have an exclusive coming out in October or November that can compete with Spider-Man. Nobody has anything that competes with Spider-Man. No, let's be honest. Like Mario's going to be big, but it's not Spider-Man big.
Yeah, it's not a 3D Mario game, and also
lifetime sales Wonder is going to do really, really good.
Oh yeah, especially if the next console is backwards compatible, of course.
Yeah.
But I think Spider-Man's probably going to be the best-selling first-party game out of the 3 big platforms by the time this generation's over.
By the time this generation's over, I would agree with that. I mean, God, Tears of the Kingdom has already sold so well.
I know.
But the reach of Spider-Man is greater than Zelda. Let's be honest. That's not counting if it comes to PC in a year or two, DLCs, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think Microsoft kind of had to look at this and be like, well, what can we have to compete with that? Because don't get me wrong, Starfield and Forza they're huge movers. Mm-hmm. How do we take the best run that Game Pass has ever been on and make it even better?
Mm-hmm.
And this is how you do it.
Yeah.
I wonder. I think they can, and this is just wild speculation on my part. I suspect that everything up to and including Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019 will be on Game Pass when this deal closes.
You don't think they'd save Modern Warfare 1, 2, and 3 to bundle, like put out all at the same time?
No. 1 had such a critically acclaimed campaign that I think they want that out there.
Yeah.
I think they want it on there. I would even go so far as to say they might be able to get up to Black Ops Cold War, but that was just given away on PS Plus, which is what kind of makes me think that maybe they can't do it with that and Vanguard yet. 2 they'll put on there as quickly as they can. I think 2 is more critical for them to get on there as quickly as possible, since you can share cosmetics between 2 and 3.
Yeah.
So I don't know, and nobody knows what the details of Sony's original deal, like including subscription services and whatnot, were. Because when they struck that deal, Game Pass wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
So if there's a revised deal, and I imagine there's probably concessions that got to be paid out at that point.
Yeah.
Um, we'll have to wait and see, but I suspect those, the Crash and Spyro trilogies feel like a layup. That's the all time easiest thing. Like the Crash Bandicoot trilogy, Crash 4, and
The
Crash
racing
Team
game.
Racing,
Yeah.
Wumpa League. All of those feel
Wumpa.
like layups. The
Yeah.
the Spyro trilogy. I think the ones you're going to be waiting on are going to be any Xbox 360 game not with a Call of Duty prefix.
Yeah.
I also think Diablo 2 and 3 are on there pretty fast.
Yeah,
Those
those would
feel
make
like
sense,
ones.
right?
Yeah, those feel like ones. I mean, they've done free play weekends for Reaper of Souls in the past,
Mm-hmm.
and Diablo 2 Resurrected. I mean, hell, they did the marketing for it last year, so
Yeah.
I think both of those will be on there pretty quickly. They're gonna. I think the other thing they're going to want to do is similar to Bethesda, tout the PC only titles that they have. Be like, hey, here's this. Here's Warcraft 3. Here's StarCraft. Here's StarCraft 2. Here's Warcraft 2. Like here are these games unadulterated as you remember them,
Mm-hmm.
because we have the original files now. Here's the OG. Here's OG Diablo.
Yeah, those would be huge to get on PC Game Pass since that's what
Yep.
they're trying to grow.
Yeah, and I mean, so that I think that's the layup that you're probably looking for, is if you had that for PC and like console was largely Diablo 2 and 3
Yeah.
and Call of Duty Call of Duty and like Crash right off the bat. I don't think anybody would be like, "Oh, this is disappointing." Like that would be adding on to an insane run that's gone Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Sea of Stars, Starfield, Forza, Lies of P, City Skylines 2, Jasant, uh, Payday 3, like just this great list of games over the last 60 days, and then you're gonna drop just this megaton bomb and say, by the way, here's the Activision Blizzard catalog that we can put on here right now, today, day one. Like, even if it was just the games that Microsoft had the marketing for, think about that. That's the OG Call of Duty through Advanced Warfare.
Yeah.
That's what a way to start.
Yeah, what is that, like 10 games, 11 games, 12 games?
It's at least, yeah. And they will correctly be able to tout Xbox as the only console where you can play every single Call of Duty game.
Yeah.
Because Call of Duty Classic was a digital download on Xbox Live Arcade.
Right.
I still have it on my 360 to this day.
Yeah. It's not backwards compatible though, is it?
It is not, but I mean, if the team was ever going to get busted out to do more backwards compatibility, it's going to be here.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it's got to be a layup to want to get the Crash games from the 360, like Twin Sanity, on there. It's got to be something to want to get Hexen and Prototype if they're not already working.
Prototype's already on.
Prototype's already on. Okay.
They did the Xbox One up-res remaster.
Got you. Okay. It is really hard to keep track of like 500 backwards compatible games.
Yeah. No,
surely. And then I think like you kind of have to look at like what the future for these studios are, which I think we'll save that for when the deal actually closes.
Yeah.
Because I want to wait and see what Phil has to say. I suspect he has something to say about at least the leadership teams of the company. I personally really think that Rod Ferguson is going to be put in charge of all of Blizzard.
I think so too.
With the game director for Diablo 4. God, I'm blanking on his name right now. Shit, I really can't believe that I'm blanking on this. I've had to say it so many times over the last couple of months. Joe Shelley. I suspect that he may be handed the keys to running the Diablo franchise, like Rod currently is. Because it's been a complete and total success under him. He came in partway through when people were getting fired left and right, including the original director Louis Barriga, and Jesse McCree was the lead level designer. Both of them got fired due to the misconduct allegations against Blizzard. And Joe Shelley really came in and steered that ship, really righted a lot of wrongs, and delivered what I think is still an awesome product.
Yeah.
And then on top of all that, Blizzard low-key has a Warcraft mobile game coming out in like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Like this is exactly the kind of stuff that Microsoft wanted when they talked about the investment.
Yeah.
So they're going to immediately have a mobile suite that between Bethesda, Activision, Blizzard, and King is going to include Candy Crush Saga, which already is huge. That game's made. The numbers I saw say that it has made over $20 billion as a franchise,
Yeah.
and that was an estimate from like 2 years ago.
Yeah. That's
so it's probably tacked on a few more B's since then.
Yeah.
It's going to include Diablo Immortal. It's going to include Hearthstone. It's going to include this new Warcraft game. It's going to include Elder Scrolls Castles, which I am officially starting a movement to call this the Elder Shelter game.
Yeah.
It's going to include Fallout Shelter. It's going to include Elder Scrolls Blades, which we try to pretend didn't happen. You could resurrect Elder Scrolls Legends, which is the card battling game.
Yeah.
Like, you're already going to have 8 or 9 games. And that's not counting anything else that King makes. I don't know every, match 3 game that they make.
Also, the Warzone mobile is coming next year.
Oh, God, completely forgot about Warzone. Warzone Mobile is going to be, like, the crown jewel there.
Yeah.
So, like, just what a rapid way to build your mobile suite, and then you still have partnership. You have a partnership with Riot on top of that.
Yep.
For content in their mobile games, so included with your Game Pass sub. That they kind of went from 0 to 100 real quickly. You have AlphaDog, who is a mobile developer at Bethesda. They just made Mighty Doom this year.
Yeah.
Which less than stellar reviews over there, but you've got Bethesda Montreal, which I believe is also a mobile studio. They did Fallout Shelter, and I believe are doing Elder Shelter. So
funny.
You've got some really talented teams. At the very least, you've got some very money conscious teams over here that are you got teams that are gonna make you a lot of money. I look forward to seeing what these teams come up with over the next few years. Like, I really do think, like, I know Phil said that it was a huge focus for them. And I think it's because of the perpetual revenue that comes in from mobile games.
Yeah.
But, because, I mean, you look at the mobile suite they're going to have. You look at the PC suite. Like, yeah, we've got all the Xbox and Bethesda games on there. But Blizzard has always been much more PC-oriented.
Yeah.
And you're going to have access to Warcraft, StarCraft, Diablo, Overwatch, the new survival IP that they're working on, and World of Warcraft.
Yeah. I can't wait to see those Game Pass perks.
So I kind of wonder how much they're going to hold off talking about the plans for Blizzard until BlizzCon.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that.
I know that BlizzCon is pretty much set in stone, but you always have room to change that opening ceremony.
Yeah.
I gotta think that, I mean, if Phil's not on stage at BlizzCon, what are we doing?
Yeah.
That feels like the biggest layup that you could possibly do right now if you're Xbox.
Yeah.
Get Phil on stage at BlizzCon to talk about things. Some stuff's going to be addressed in a video, I'm sure, but they're not going to wait until after BlizzCon to put out a video either.
Yeah.
That's 2-3 weeks. They're not going to wait.
Right.
So I wonder if they show the survival IP or at least announce it here.
I wonder if they tease it with like a CG trailer.
I would think a CG trailer is probably in order if it's 2 to 3 years out. I would think a CG trailer is probably in order.
Almost like a marathon situation, like at the PlayStation Showcase this spring, summer, or whatever it was.
Yeah, they would already have to have the plans to announce and reveal it.
Yeah.
Set in stone. Like, that's got to be a decision made without Microsoft. I also wonder if they confirm when the first Diablo 4 expansion is planned to come out. Like, those are pretty much the 2 big announcements I could expect them to make. Yeah. Other than that, I really think Activision Blizzard's going to be kind of quiet for this generation. This was a move for the future.
Yeah.
Like, Mobile and getting access to the PC suite and BattleNet and all that is an immediate move. Getting access to the IPs is a longer, and the studios especially is a much longer play.
Yeah.
It's going to take time to get these studios out of the idea of all we make is Call of Duty.
Yeah.
It's going to take a while to restaff up some of those studios. Like, I don't think Vicarious Visions can be saved.
No.
It's Blizzard Albany at this point, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But teams like Toys for Bob can still be saved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we'll have to wait and see.
I mean, man, you think about Activision Blizzard, and it's like, well, they have Beanox, they have High Moon. We already talked about Toys for Bob. Like, they have a lot of studios within the Call of Duty train, or whatever you want to call it, right? Like, I mean, I know Raven's big thing now is the Warzone suite, but like, I don't know, man. They have a lot of studios that could really be unleashed after this. It's kind of exciting.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously they've thought pretty high of Vicarious Visions for a long time over there. Making them Blizzard Albany and everything. Jen O'Neill was the studio head and became head of Blizzard.
Mm-hmm.
Well, with Mike Ybarra, and we all know how that one turned out.
Yeah.
But I mean, they have Beanox, they have Demonware, Infinity Ward, Raven, Sledgehammer, Treyarch, Toys for Bob, High Moon is still there. Like, you gotta hope that we start getting some original IP out of these guys again.
Yeah.
Some of them, like High Moon, is always going to be a support studio, and like Beanox is probably going to be reduced to that too. Let's be honest, Beanox or Demonware are probably going to be reduced to that also.
Man, that's so sad, because High Moon, man, those Transformers games from High Moon were so good.
Oh, they did do those, didn't they?
Yeah, they did 4 of them.
They did do 4 of them.
And Beanox did all those, like the old school 360 Spider-Mans. Like,
the problem is none of the people who made these games are still there.
I know, but
like, that's part of the issue for me. Is like, you look at like Beanox, and the last time that they got to even co-develop something, was like Crash Racing Nitro Fueled.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, like they did all those Spider-Man games. They did Skylanders.
Oh God, Skylanders.
And we'll kind of do like a studio breakdown, I think, when the deal closes, and what we think they could be assigned to.
Yeah, I would like to do a studio breakdown of all of Xbox now. Like, like if there's like a slow week, maybe the last episode of the year, we'd kind of go through and be like, here are the studios, here's what they're working on, type thing.
I would be good with that. I would be really good with that, because there's a few other studios that we're going to talk about in like DLC that have some plans coming up.
Yeah. Well, Josh, you have anything else to say about this one?
No, we're going to have to talk about this again. So anything that we forget can be covered in the future.
Yeah. All right, Josh. Our next story is a little Telltale deja vu. They put out a tweet after a lot of people coming out and saying that a lot of people were laid off from Telltale. The new Telltale, that is. Due to the current market conditions, we regrettably had to let some of our Telltale team go recently. We did not take this action lightly, and our commitment to storytelling and finding new ways to do so remains the same. We are grateful for everyone for their dedication along this journey, and we are working to support everyone impacted. All projects currently in development are still in production, and we have no further updates at this time.
This is a really long-winded way of saying you guys did not buy The Expanse.
Yeah. I mean, is anybody like really that interested in The Expanse? Maybe who haven't watched the show? I mean,
yes. I'm actually really stoked for this. It unfortunately came out at a very bad time. It came out the week before Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah. Well,
it came out between Remnant and Baldur's Gate 3.
Remnant.
I've heard nothing but praise. I have a few friends who have played this, heard nothing but praise.
Yeah.
If you like the show, or if you like the books, like I'm a huge fan of the books, then this is apparently right up your alley. I really am looking forward to playing this. I just haven't had the time, frankly. But this tells me that this and I don't think they worked on New Tales from the Borderlands. I think that was
in-house.
Yeah, I think that was in-house too. But this was kind of the most predictable thing you could imagine happening.
Hmm.
As bad as that is to say,
Yeah.
um, not because like the Expanse isn't like a good property. It's because Telltale was horribly mismanaged before, and then it was announced they were going to be saved,
Hmm.
and it didn't seem like they fixed any of their issues.
No.
So, man, I feel so bad for this studio and for the people who work there.
Yeah. The the man, the issue is too is like they can't even sell for, like if they just decide to close down, they can't even sell because they don't own any of their properties, right? It's all licensed stuff. So like
Yeah,
even if you wanted to sell, you wouldn't get anything out of the name because they have no IP, which is also really sad.
the only game that I know that they still have in development is Wolf
Wolf
Among
Among
Us
Us
2.
2, yeah,
Yeah, that's it. That's the only game that I know that is in development from them still.
yeah. Which I mean,
Which
who knows if
we'll
that'll
see it.
be.
We'll see if it even comes out. Let's be frank.
Yeah. I mean, they did announce like what 2 months ago that it was delayed to next year. So
Yeah, I don't have a lot of confidence in this coming out. I mean, Deck Nine co-developed The Expanse with
yeah,
Telltale,
yeah,
and they've run into their own problems.
yeah,
Um, they were laying people off this summer, so it's really unfortunate. I like a lot of the games that they've done over the years. I think they've done some really really cool stuff, but it's kind of like they made The Walking Dead, and it was such a huge hit
hmm,
out of nowhere.
yeah,
And then they decided they were going to use that format for like the next dozen games they made, and then wondered why they didn't sell.
yeah,
Because you went Walking Dead, Wolf Among Us, Walking Dead Season 2, Tales from the Borderlands, Game of Thrones, Minecraft Story Mode, Walking Dead Michonne, Batman, Walking Dead A New Frontier, Guardians of the Galaxy, Minecraft Season 2, Batman The Enemy Within, and then they wondered why they were closing down.
yeah.
Oh, there was another Walking Dead game in there too. Sorry.
Uh, yeah, but wasn't that like finished by what Skydance?
Yes, Skybound. Skybound.
Skybound.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Skybound finished the final episodes.
yeah, because
They canceled a second Game of Thrones game. They had Wolf Among Us 2 in production, then canceled it, and then it got resurrected.
yeah,
And a Stranger Things game were all canceled.
yeah,
It is absolutely bizarre. Like, the studio closed down and then got resurrected almost immediately.
yeah. Well, somebody bought them, right? LGD Entertainment.
LCG.
Yeah,
LCG
LCG.
bought them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know, man. I feel for the people who were let go. I mean,
I mean, it was a lot of people from what I understand.
yeah, some people were saying that like it's basically a skeleton crew over there. Like everybody is gone again.
Yeah, man, I feel so bad for this
Hmm.
team. It's still a small studio. It was estimated to be 40 people
Yeah.
um at the studio, and they just back in August just announced that they were acquiring somebody. They announced on August the 9th that they were acquiring Flavorworks to expand their storytelling game efforts.
Yikes.
Yikes indeed, because guess what? That lasted for about 2 months.
Yeah. Almost to the
And
day.
now they're going to have to close down.
Yeah. Um, man.
Or at least are rapidly speeding that way.
Yeah. There's a lot of layoffs going on. I mean, we talked about it. We've talked
Yeah.
about it at nauseum, and we're about to head into another story, Josh, about this where CD Projekt had some mass layoffs at the studio that has prompted their workers to form a union. 3 rounds of layoffs in 3 months, over 100 people, and this is nuts. I mean, I I don't know how anybody survives these days, man. With
No.
budgets so high and like all the technology, how much that costs, and project delays cost more money, and like you have to
Well,
sell like 30 million units just to break even, and it's
like
ridiculous.
Sean Layden's talked about it before,
Oh
right?
yeah,
He was saying back before he even got before he left Sony. I was going to say got let go. He did not get let go. Before he left Sony, saying that it was unsustainable to keep making games. And that was when, that was when like the high end for a AAA game was like 50 million.
Yeah.
He was saying that that was unsustainable then. And I mean,
Yeah.
he's continued to be a very vocal critic of it, saying like, it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
It's not sustainable at all. And that's what we've talked about for a few years now. You and I have that, like, you know, you really got to give credit where it's due to Microsoft and Nintendo for not only funding AAA heavyweights, like they really lean into the smaller games. And, you know, like look at the deals Microsoft makes with indies through ID at Xbox. And, you know, we talk a lot about how 2020 they were kind of kept afloat by double A's. You know, you take a game like Minecraft Dungeons, which probably was made for, you know, I don't know, like 5 to 10 million. And that game ended up having a 3-year life cycle with DLCs and everything. And it just now reached end of life status. You have a game like Grounded that was made by 12 people and has become a bigger success than they ever imagined.
Yeah. And then you get Pentiment, which was like, it never would have been funded by anybody.
No, never would have been funded by anybody. And you can say all day long, like, oh, well, it's because of Game Pass. And like, yeah, that's partially true. Like it is partially true that they were able to do Pentiment because of Game Pass.
Yeah.
But I would think that seeing games like that, and like we got a little bit to say about Hi-Fi Rush in our DLC column, games like that, I mean, yeah, there's an audience for them, but like how much are they really going to sell? Like Hi-Fi Rush would have just become a cult classic.
Yeah.
Pentiment, even with Game Pass, is destined to become a cult classic.
Yeah.
But you know, you do that, and then you look across the board, and as much as I love Sony's first party efforts, and their games are must plays, when's the last real time that they made like a non like AAA exclusive?
I mean,
Concrete Genie.
Yeah, I mean,
and that studio got closed down.
Yeah, Astrobot, I guess too, technically.
I would count Astrobot. But I mean the other Astrobot game, one was a VR game and one was a pack-in.
Yeah.
So there was an interesting article. I didn't get a chance to read the whole thing, but it kind of fits into this discussion about like how expensive things are to make and risks and things like that. I saw a lot of industry peeps weighing in on this, developers and designers, things like that. It was an article, basically, it was from IGN, essentially arguing for a return to standalone, not standalone expansions, but standalone like sequels that are smaller, like similar to Uncharted Lost Legacy and Miles Morales, that take less time to make and tell just as engaging of a story.
Yeah, and the world is already there. The assets are already there. The character, like, I mean, you look at Lost Legacy, for example. I mean, those were everything in there was pulled from Uncharted 4's asset pool, right?
Which is fine.
Yeah, I would take a new Uncharted every 2 years that just was ripped from the other, like the last one. Like,
well, I think it allows you to tell more stories, because it was making the argument that like things like Phantom Liberty, we should be asking for things like Phantom Liberty and Lost Legacy more. And I totally agree with that. I completely agree with that, because I look at the wait for the next Elder Scrolls. Elder Scrolls is one of my favorite series ever. I've been waiting since I was a freshman in college for news on a new Elder Scrolls. Okay, maybe not that. Maybe I think I was my second year of college.
Yeah,
I was 20 when Skyrim came out. Yeah. I was 19 or 20 when it came out. And I've been waiting ever since then to see Elder Scrolls 6. I am 31. I am 31. I have been waiting since my second year of college to get news on this stupid game.
Yeah. And I mean, I'd really love to see Xbox embrace that style as well. I mean, they were supposed to with Halo Infinite, right? Like, there were supposed to be new stories told within that world, supposedly. Or
yeah, oh, God. And then you look at how badly 343 was managed, and it suddenly makes sense. Oh, that's why we're not getting that.
Yeah.
I would like for, like, that's why when people were saying like, oh yeah, Avowed was like largely scaled back from what it was supposed to be, and that game, from what we understand, has been rebooted a couple of times. I was really happy to hear that it's going to be a smaller scale game than it originally was supposed to be, because that means a more focused, streamlined experience. If it's an RPG I can get through and 100% in like 30 hours, I'm here for it.
Yeah.
games are entirely too big and too long right now.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing serves that better than the Assassin's Creed franchise, right? Which I think both you and I like.
Yeah.
But you look at a game like Valhalla, it took me 70 hours to roll credits.
Yeah.
And then they did DLCs on top of that. Assassin's Creed Mirage is like a crisp 15 hours.
Yeah. I think they
to
said
finish.
it takes, what, 25 hours to 100% it or something? 125
Yeah,
hours?
yeah. They estimate about 25 hours to 100% it, 12 to 15 just to do the campaign.
Yeah, which is
Done.
great. Which is great.
Done. Sign me up.
Yeah,
Sign me up. That is a solid uninterrupted gaming weekend for me.
yeah.
Like, and that's why I like Miles Morales so much. I remember when Miles Morales was going to come out, people were like, "Oh my god, is it going to be worth $60?" Like, yes. Did you play the first one? Yes, it's going to be worth it. Like, who cares if it's the same city? Same with Spider-Man 2. Like, who the fuck cares that it's mostly the same city?
Yeah.
Who cares? How are you going to make New York any different?
Yeah. The only
they added some of the boroughs, which is really cool.
Yeah, what, Queens and Brooklyn or what they added?
Yeah, Queens and Brooklyn have both been added to the game, which is really cool. I'm here for it. I'm super excited. But, there's so many stories to be told. Like, you never see people complaining when they read a comic book, like, oh, New York needs to be different this time.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
it's a real
okay,
city. How much do you
this is how you're getting a game so soon after Miles Morales.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But, like, not even that. Like, even when you play Miles, like, they clearly did some touch-ups and some tune-ups in Miles.
Yeah.
And then carried that over. But at the same time, like, it's also been 5 years. 5 years since Spider-Man came out.
Yeah.
That's about the average time for a AAA game to be made these days. Like, the fact that it's coming out 3 years after Miles is actually kind of a small miracle.
Yeah. And then
I saw people actually complaining that, oh, you can get the platinum in 25 hours.
Great.
Fantastic. Great. Great. Here's my credit card number.
Yeah. I mean, they even put out Ratchet and Clank somewhere in between that. I know it was the other studio, but still, like,
they've got three teams from what I understand at Insomniac right now.
Yeah, I think there's 2 at their main studio in North Carolina, and then the other studio has 1, right? Is what I'm understanding.
I don't remember exactly, but they have the team that's doing Spider-Man 2. They have the Ratchet and Clank team, whatever they're working on, and then they have the Wolverine team. Yeah. It is thought that the Ratchet and Clank team is making a multiplayer game right now.
Yeah. Fuse 2.
Fuse 2. My dream is Sunset Overdrive 2, but I don't think I'm ever going to get that, unfortunately. That was a game that it was like a microcosm of like late 2000s culture.
Yeah.
It came like 3 years too late, but it was the absolute perfect game for everyone who was like 22 at the time.
Yeah.
And remains one of my all-time favorite games.
Yeah.
But they've even said, like, you don't get Spider-Man without us doing Sunset Overdrive first and getting the mobility down.
Yeah.
So, but this is not a PlayStation podcast. Insomniac, though, like, really along the right path there, I think. Mm-hmm. But also just like the sentiment of we need games that are shorter, because just because a game is shorter doesn't mean that it's lesser. Yeah. But shorter games and reusing assets mean cheaper titles, mean more affordable development, mean better working hours and better conditions. It also means that you get to enjoy stories more often. Mm-hmm. Like, let's be honest. I mean, look at Naughty Dog, for example. They came out with The Last of Us Part 2 in 2020, and they've apparently been working on Factions this whole time.
Yeah.
And we know that's not the whole studio, but like Factions is now supposedly on ice. They had layoffs in the last week and a half, and now that game is supposedly on ice. Like, Factions may not even come out.
Yeah, I mean, well, here's the thing: I bet they scale that project back and include it with whatever main game is next in that series.
I think you have to.
I don't think it's a big secret that Last of Us Part 3 is in development based off the success of the TV show, and I mean. That's got to be their next project. I mean, I know they probably have 2 projects in development, but that's one of them.
Yeah, I suspect that they just stretched themselves a little too thin.
Yeah.
What else do we? What else we have on the docket, Corey?
Oh boy. Okay, let's get out of this garbage talk. Well, I mean, I guess we could talk one more piece of garbage. Unity has announced a quote leadership transition. Their CEO. has stepped down because of the recent um, fee fiasco, if you want to call it that. And there's a whole article on Business Wire that you can read. It pretty much goes through all the legal stuff and what's going on there. But yeah, I mean, Unity, they gotta make changes, man, because the trust isn't there for developers, even if they walked a lot of this back, right? So I don't know. I think this is a step one, I guess. So James M. Whitehurst has been appointed the interim chief executive officer and president until they kind of figure things out. It's been John. Oh, what's his name? Riccatello is.
I don't know how to pronounce it, so I'm going to let you I'm going to let you butcher it.
That's fine. He will retire as president, CEO, chairman, and member of the company's board of directors, effective immediately. So today at 4:30 is when this was written up. So
how long do you think it's going to be before he is hired by another company?
I mean,
I give it less than 18 months.
Yeah, no, I would say within the next year. It depends on how big his severance and stuff is too, right? Because he's clearly going to get some sort of.
I mean, this is the guy who also ran EA into the ground, and EA had to spend years digging itself out of that.
Yeah.
And its image has never recovered either, by the way.
Yeah.
So
even though I think today's EA is a lot better off than.
A lot better off.
Yeah.
A lot better off.
I just think people still like to shit on them.
I mean, EA still has some abysmal business practices,
sure.
namely Ultimate Team.
Sure.
But
remember, this is the guy that suggested that every time you reload a gun in Battlefield, it would cost $1. So
to reload quicker, yeah. I mean, yeah, you still have garbage decisions like 2042 being made, but also I don't think the EA under him would be making Jedi Fallen Order, would be making Apex, Dead Space. Yeah, I don't think they would have greenlit that. So you take your wins where you can get them. There is no happier news right now than this guy quitting Unity, but the damage has already been done.
Mm-hmm.
He dumped a ton of stock the day the announcement was made.
Oh, yeah.
So he got out ahead of it. I genuinely wonder if he's going to get investigated for insider trading.
Yeah, I wonder that. I mean, what was it, like 12 hours before this announcement? He sold most of it at least.
Yeah.
So I wonder.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what happens here. But hey, in a sea of shitty company news, this dude is gone.
Yeah.
He's stepping down. He's out of here. Thank God. Yeah. Goodbye.
Yeah.
We won't miss you.
Yeah, really. You know what's stepping up, though, Josh?
What's stepping up?
Redfall got an update 2.0, adding performance mode, and a lot of crashes and bug fixes. And you know what, Josh? I downloaded it to try it out again. I got stuck on a door. I reloaded the game. I tried to go out the same door, and I got stuck in it again. I'm like, well. Didn't fix this, but I uninstalled it.
I have had friends persuade me to re-download this to give it a shot. I personally don't think this game is going to be worth playing still. But hey, Pete Hines said, hey, this game's going to live on forever on Game Pass. Like, we got to make sure that this gets to a playable state. That this is something that like you go and download and it actually runs.
Yeah. You think they'll get the new heroes in the expansion?
No.
Yeah, I don't either.
I think that stuff is canceled. If it comes, it'll be in like 2 years. If you get a Phantom Liberty style turnaround on this game, I will like eat my socks. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, if this is canceled, they gotta refund the 12 people who bought the $99 version, right?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know the legalities of all that, but yeah. Cool. They got a big patch. I'll check it out at some point, but there's so much other stuff to play. I feel like they kind of just like shadow dropped it in the busiest month of the year.
They did.
Just so they didn't have to answer questions about it again.
Yeah.
And they clearly didn't. Like, I feel like this was clearly ready a few months ago and they didn't want it to stain stain Starfield.
Yeah.
And they're doing it now so that everybody will forget about it so that they can collect accolades for Starfield and Hi-Fi Rush.
Yeah.
So, and like Microsoft is doing that. They literally dropped this the same day as early access for Forza started.
Yeah.
Which is really funny to me.
Oh, Man, that's out tomorrow though, right?
That is, it
For
is
everyone.
officially available right now on Game Pass. Servers are running into the same issue that Starfield did. Just they are absolutely getting slammed.
Yeah, man. Forza looks good. I'm gonna play it. I think a little bit at
I
least.
am not a big racing sim fan, but I will check it out for the sake of the show. I will play some Forza this next week before Spider-Man comes out. Maybe I'll my girlfriend's sister is supposed to be spending the day at our apartment tomorrow. Maybe I will do nothing but play Forza tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, Forza looks good.
Speaking of Hi-Fi Rush, though, I was wanting to get this out. There's an awesome article over on Xbox Wire about the making of the game,
Yeah,
which I I've seen a couple journalists commentate on this. Mostly everybody agrees, hey, this is a really cool thing to be written up. There's been a few journalists who are pretty upset that this wasn't given to an outlet.
hmm
Specifically, Game Informer seems to be a little tilted over it.
Game Informer's tilted by everything though because they're owned by GameStop. So
yeah, I know. One of their editors seems particularly like offended over this, I guess, and I don't know why. This is just a corporate speak. This is just corporate speak. Like, buddy, every interview you do like that is corporate speak. Hate to
yeah,
break it to you. There are some interesting nuggets towards the end, though, about Tango's future.
yeah,
They do say in this interview, one of the interesting nuggets I saw is that Shinji Mikami personally signed off on making the game.
yeah,
Um, and there's a few things here because we've kind of talked about this with other studios that, like, especially with other Bethesda studios, ironically, Arcane Austin being one of them, where you get hired and you think that you're going to work on a certain type of game and then you don't work on that game.
hmm
And one of the senior leaders at Tango on this project, he was the lead programmer. Yuji Nakamura says this in the piece. He goes, looking back, when I looked at the team, there were people who came to Tango wanting to make realistic looking games, darker themed or horror style. And when they got the position to make Hi-Fi Rush, they weren't thinking about it as a positive thing like, oh my god, they were going, oh my god, I have to work on this.
hmm
But as they got to know the game and they got into the groove of development, they started to notice it's fun to make a game that's fun.
yeah,
And that was the whole objective here. And John Johannes says, looking to the future, I think if we can do something like this, we're now a studio that's very malleable for whatever project I think we can take on. And to show we can, if we can do it, if we put the effort into doing it, we don't cop out on trying it. So I like to think we finally achieved our goal of not being pigeonholed into one style. And it makes us better as developers because we get to try new things. It's better for gamers because they get to try new experiences developers want to create.
hmm
One of the other designers said, being a studio that's kind of been labeled as horror only is something we wanted to grow out of. It's something that we're definitely good at, but we see this as a new challenge. From my view, Tango has always had a lot of freedom. There's a lot of things we were creating that were not seen publicly, and so I personally had a lot of confidence in the freedom that was going on here. Just that with Hi-Fi Rush, since it actually got released, that's changed the public's view of Tango, right? And then the piece closes out with Yuji saying, the confidence has definitely been built up within the studio. It's changed the attitude of people here in regards to, hey, what else can we make? We can challenge ourselves to make something new that is not what the older themes of Tango used to be. So we're looking forward to what we can do in the future. We're not sure what that is yet, but it's created this new attitude of like, let's look forward and see what new challenges we can challenge ourselves to. I think that's really cool. Like, that's something that I've really liked about not just Microsoft Studios, but I think like Sony started doing this last generation, right?
hmm
Where you were seeing these brand new experiences from studios. Like, for example, Sucker Punch they were the infamous studio. And then they made Ghost of Tsushima, which is the best Assassin's Creed game ever made.
hmm
You had Uncharted, which had, gone from Crash Bandicoot and Jack and Daxter to Uncharted and then to The Last of Us. You have Guerrilla, which, made fucking Killzone, and then they come out with Horizon Zero Dawn. Like, there are these different studios that can do it. And I mean, even within Xbox, we talk a lot about Obsidian on this show. Obsidian, in like a 4-year span, made Pillars of Eternity 2, Outer Worlds, Grounded, and Pentiment.
hmm
We see some of the other, like Playground. Playground's probably a great example of this too. They've done Forza Horizon, and now they have a whole nother side of the studio that's going to make Fable.
Yeah.
Um, when you have teams that can be versatile like that, I think that's a great strength for it. Like, they're not saying that we won't do horror in the future, and there's been a lot of theories that they are making the Evil Within 3.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Anyway, continue. Sorry.
But like, there's a lot of thoughts that they're making Evil Within 3. The other rumor that's been going around is that they are making a JRPG in studio.
Which would be awesome.
That'd be awesome. That personally, that's what I think. On the leaked documents that we got, I think that's what Project Platinum was.
Yeah.
But I love that, we can still be surprised by games, because this is, if you had told me last year Tango was going to make a Jet Set Radio spiritual successor, I would have laughed you out of the room. And then even like a month before this came out, there was, I think it was Jez put a piece up last December saying, it seems like Tango is working on a game that's unlike anything that they've done before. And he drew the Jet Set Radio comparison. He was like, I think he's the one who said that it sounds like it's going to be a mobile game, though. And I was like, oh, well, that's interesting. And then it comes out during the developer direct, and you're like, whoa, what is this? Yeah. Like, I want to be surprised by studios. I want to see studios go against the grain. But I think that you have to keep that expectation within check, because it worked out really well for them.
Yeah.
It did not work out for Arcane.
Nope.
So, because you went from Prey to Redfall. Which, it's funny, because you would think that the whiplash of doing Evil Within 2 and Ghostwire Tokyo to doing Hi-Fi Rush would be a similar whiplash.
Right.
But they said they basically developed this in tandem with Ghostwire.
Yeah.
So it sounds like, Shinji basically handed this over to a smaller team at the studio and said, "Here, go crazy."
Yeah.
And of course, he's now left. It sounds like John Johannes is going to be the studio director going forward.
Yeah.
Not just the game director.
Yeah.
So,
which is cool to hear, right? I mean,
very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. It says in the piece, just kind of a final note, it took them nearly 5 years to make it.
Yeah.
But that they pitched the game alongside to be developed in tandem with Ghostwire Tokyo.
Yeah. It was a smaller team too, though, right? I mean, obviously.
Yeah, it is a smaller team. Yeah, it's definitely a smaller team. But man, just what an unexpected hit.
Yeah.
It's a very long piece. I encourage everybody to go read it. There's interviews with John Johannes, who is the game director, Yuji Nakamura, the lead programmer, Kaida Sakai, who is the lead art director, and Shuchi Kobori, the audio director. Yep. So very, very cool to see. They pretty much all of them have been with the studio since Evil Within. All of them have been there since Evil Within, except for Nakamura, who came on board with Evil Within 2. It's its first game as a lead programmer, so very cool.
Yeah,
very cool that they got to do it. So
yeah. Well, Josh, should we get into this last story here?
Yes. Sorry, I hijacked things there.
That was a good thing. I think everybody should go read that interview. So. Our last story here, Josh, like we said, we were going to talk about Jez Corden today via the Xbox 2 podcast, which, I listen to from time to time if there's something big going on. But, I feel like that's more of like a fan-based podcast than a newsworthy podcast sometimes.
Definitely.
But Jez often talks about a lot of news that he's heard on that show. He seems to be hearing that the partnership with Square-Enix may be strengthening. At first, he thought maybe it would be just the pixel remasters and Final Fantasy 14 and older games, maybe, Forspoken at some point. But now he says he's hearing that it might be full-blown everything. Obviously, take this news with a grain of salt because it's still a rumor, but it's interesting. Very, very interesting.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how far they go, because it feels like the Final Fantasy VII of it all is going to stay exclusive.
Yeah.
And I really do think that Sony's going to fight tooth and nail to keep Final Fantasy for as long as they can.
Yeah.
We've both said that we think that they're going to buy Square at some point, which should not surprise anybody to think that.
No, especially the way that
Um,
Square's been offloading, their Western teams and
yeah.
closing down some teams and kind of tightening the strings, if you will.
Yeah, and like at TGS, we found out that things like Octopath Traveler 2 were going to come. Like that
Hmm.
again wasn't a huge surprise to me.
Hmm.
The first one came to Xbox and still hasn't come to PlayStation,
Hmm.
ironically.
Yeah, it's coming
But
next year though, right? They said.
I have no idea. Octopath Traveler 2, yes.
No, I mean one to PlayStation.
I have no idea. I do wonder if this means that like eventually down the line, like Triangle Strategy will come
Hmm.
to other consoles.
Yeah.
Um, there's plenty to do here, and I mean, I don't think that I think that saying like, oh, they're looking to make this a big partnership should be expected because I mean, you don't bring Phil Spencer out on stage at your Final Fantasy 14 convention
Hmm.
and that be the only thing that you're going to do.
Right. Forspoken.
Forspoken believe it or not, that is a 2-year exclusivity window that they paid for.
I know.
They paid for a 2-year. So in 2025, you can get Forspoken on Xbox.
Yeah.
I did find very funny if you watch the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth trailer.
Hmm.
At the end, in the fine print, it says that console exclusive on PS5 until 5/30/24.
Yeah.
I don't think that you're going to get Rebirth on Xbox next summer.
No.
Sony would be fools not to pay for a very big exclusivity window on that.
Yeah.
But I do think like the evidence of remake coming to Xbox are getting stronger and stronger.
Yeah.
We were all kind of expecting that to be like a TGS announcement, and then it wasn't.
Yeah.
But we've thought that for years.
Yeah. I mean, we
It just
thought
seems
that
like they're
last year, too.
really like partnering with these Japanese studios now.
Hmm.
And I think like Square saw like Atlas and the Yakuza team playing ball, who like traditionally are PlayStation studios.
Yeah.
Like they saw them playing ball and were like, well, shit.
Yeah.
We might need to, and like also like new studio leadership has been a big part of it. Jess said it in a tweet last week, I think,
Yeah.
that new studio leadership at Square has really kind of driven that home, that they don't like making experiences just for like one player base.
Yeah.
So especially after they kind of got out of that shadow during the 360.
Yeah.
I mean, remember when Final Fantasy 13
Yeah.
was shown on stage at an Xbox show, and we're like, well, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
I mean, there was even a console bundle.
Yeah.
Like
There was a
that was
faceplate with
that was a
lightning on it.
huge moment.
Yeah, there was a faceplate with lightning on it.
Oh, lightning!
Oh man. Remember when they said that Lightning was going to be like not only a video game character but like a model and like an actress, and they're going to try to like they said with Final Fantasy.
Unfortunately,
It was like Final Fantasy Spirits Within 2.0.
I do unfortunately remember that.
Oh man. I liked Final Fantasy 13 enough, but I mean 13-2 in that series is the best one, I would say.
Wouldn't know.
Ironically,
I have one last thing from Jez.
Ooh.
Actually, that I did not add in here. It's not really from Jez. It's just I saw his tweet on it and reminded me about it. Josh Sawyer joked about a week and a half ago that he's waiting on a call from Xbox to give him $120 million to make Pillars of Eternity 3.
Ooh.
I just wish it wasn't a joke. Also, Pillars of Eternity 3 does not need nearly $120 million. Those games were made for like 10 apiece.
Dude, that game would be like 500 hours long with 37,000 endings, and
I'd be okay with it. I'd be okay with it. I do genuinely wonder if like the success of Baldur's Gate 3 has had Phil go and have conversation, because Josh Sawyer, to my knowledge, has not started work on a follow-up to Pentiment yet.
Mm-hmm.
I genuinely wonder if him and Josh Sawyer sat down and talked about, hey man, do you want to make Pillars 3?
Mm-hmm.
Like we'll do it. Like we'll pay for it.
Yeah.
Because Microsoft has bought 2 studios that work on CRPGs pretty extensively, and that's Obsidian and In Exile.
Yeah.
Wasteland 3 was an awesome experience.
Yeah.
They just made a deal for Lamplighters League, which just came out. Can't wait to play that.
Yeah, it looks interesting.
Curious to see if they could ever get this made, because I feel like now the public interest is there, and you have the reach of Game Pass.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I mean, Josh famously swore off the Pillars franchise, said he would never work on it again after Deadfire did pretty badly in sales. That it was just, it's basically was like soul crushing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I wonder if like Baldur's Gate has really put these on the map, and like Game Pass will help.
Yeah.
And you know, the
Well,
situation.
and that's what I'm wondering. But I still think like it's got to be hard to like get that out of your mind, right?
Yeah.
Like he so clearly enjoyed and he tweets about it all the time, like how much he enjoyed doing Pentiment because it was such a different style of game. If I keep getting like weird, small, kooky games from him for like the rest of his career, I'd be thrilled.
Yeah.
There are plenty of people at Obsidian who could take up the mantle of, hey, we want to make Pillars 3, or like them and In Exile can collaborate.
Yeah.
Their offices are like 10 minutes from each other. Like, hey, we can collaborate on this, you know, because we've got teams that are making Avowed and Clockwork Revolution, but we still got people who want to make CRPGs.
Mm-hmm.
There was a rumor for a while that there was a Critical Role game in development, and the rumor was that Obsidian was doing it. Because Obsidian did a partnership with them regarding Pillars of Eternity 2, I believe.
Yeah.
There was a rumor. So there was a rumor for a while about that. I don't know if that would ever happen, but you know, maybe that's one of the projects. They said that they had projects planned out for like the next 6 years at one point.
Yeah.
So, but that was my little nugget there.
Nice.
Pillars of Eternity 3, please make it happen.
I bet it happens eventually. I'll give you $5 if it doesn't happen within the next, at least announced within the next 3 years.
Yeah, I feel like that's pretty generous.
Yeah. All right, Josh. What's coming to Game Pass in the next 2 weeks? Since we won't reconvene until then. As at the time you're hearing this, Forza Motorsport will be available to everybody on the Series consoles, not Xbox One, although Xbox One via cloud, I guess. PC and cloud. On 10/12, From Space is coming to console, PC, and cloud. 10/17, Josh, a big one. Like a Dragon Ishin is coming to console, PC, and cloud.
Oh, can't wait.
And then on 10/24, City Skylines is coming to PC Game Pass. The Xbox version has been delayed slightly, so that'll come at a later date. I think they're probably trying to get controls down or something, or optimizing it for consoles or something. I'm sure. So that's it, Josh.
Nope, we have one question tonight.
Oh,
we have a question. Yep, I'm pulling a fast one.
Is it in the Discord?
We have
join the Discord.
Yep, it is in the Discord. We have a request.
Ooh, a request, eh?
From Hydra's Fool to rank the Halo games.
Rank the Halo games. Oh man.
Yes.
Like individually.
I'm gonna set some parameters here.
Okay.
We are not doing Spartan Assault, Spartan Strike, or the Halo Wars titles. We are only doing the first-person shooters.
Great. So 1, 2, 3.
We
4,
are including
5,
ODST and Reach in this.
Infinite, Reach, and ODST.
Yes. So everything from Combat Evolved through Infinite.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I'll go first. I would say, for me, 3, 4, ODST, 2, Infinite, Reach, 5.
Well, Halo 1.
Oh, shoot. Yeah. No, I said 1. Did I not say 1?
No.
Shoot. Okay. 3, 4, 2, 1, Infinite, Reach, 5.
So I'm going to go 2 as my number 1. 2 is, in my opinion, the best game ever made, other than Breath of the Wild. 3 is extremely close, though. So I got to go 2, 3. I'm going to go CE here. I'm going to go 4. In fact, no, I'm not going to go CE there. I'm gonna do something really controversial. I'm gonna put Infinite as number 3. The Infinite campaign is phenomenal, and the multiplayer suite is still really, really good.
Yeah.
Infinite, CE, Reach, or 4 CE, Reach, ODST, 5. Yeah.
Hmm.
None of these games are bad except for 5.
Yeah.
This is a really hard franchise to rank, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is really hard.
It's like ranking Zelda games where like even the worst one
Yes.
is like still decent.
The worst one is still like the best game in like an average franchise.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's really hard to rank these.
Yeah, I thought the gunplay in 5 was good, but the story was really bad, and
The story
the
sucks.
multiplayer was like not really what I wanted from a Halo game.
Multiplayer is fine. It just had too much of a focus, I think, on the comp scene.
Yeah.
They really wanted it to embrace esports,
Mhm.
and nobody did. Warzone was cool.
Yeah.
I still really wish they would build out on Warzone, but I apparently was the only person who enjoyed that.
No, I mean, I wonder if it'll come because they're adding firefight soon.
Firefight was confirmed today to be coming to Halo 5. Man, I love the changes they're making to 5. We'll talk about it on the next
Infinite?
episode.
You mean Infinite?
Yeah, Infinite, whatever. We'll talk about it on the next episode. So I want to talk about Halo Championships are this weekend.
Yeah.
I'll talk about a little bit about that on the next episode. But
Yeah.
they're going to release more details this week and this weekend about Season 5. It sounds really cool. Some of the cosmetics are flood themed,
Ooh,
which look really cool. I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
nice. Well, Josh,
Well, Corey, I think that does it.
I think it does it. Any final thoughts, Josh, or you just want to get out of here?
I just want to get out of here. I think that's it. I do not have any more soapboxes to get on tonight.
No more soapboxes for Josh. All right. So I want to thank everybody for watching and or listening to this episode of Xbox Casuals. Reminder that it goes up every other Tuesday on podcast services and YouTube. You can join our Discord, the Tower Casuals Discord. Listen to Tower Casuals if you are into Destiny. That's our primary show on this channel. Josh, thank you for your time tonight, as always. Where can we find you?
Oh, Twitter, Josh_Finn, 2 N's. Still hanging out there.
Still there.
I'm riding this ship straight into the ground.
You can find me at I am Corey HD on social media stuff. Join the Discord, play Xbox, do all the things, write in questions. I want to thank everybody for watching and or listening. Until next time, we love you. Goodbye.